I stayed with Edward for 7 years, coaxing him into spending a small fortune on me. Later, when he was about to get engaged, he gave me a choice: take the money and leave, or become his mistress. I chose neither. I left cleanly and decisively, not even touching that hefty severance package. All I asked for was one promise from him. No matter what difficulties I might face in the future, as long as I come to him, he has to lend me a hand. Years later, a wealthy and influential second-generation heir took a liking to me, and wouldn't he leave me alone? With no other choice, I dialed Edward's number. Why must you reject him? On the other end of the line, the man seemed in high spirits. Don't you like it? I sighed. I'm already married. A full minute of silence hung between us. Clutching the phone, I could only hear the man's deep, measured breathing. When did this happen? Edward's tone was indifferent, each word enunciated clearly. Why didn't you tell me? Since when do people inform their former sugar daddies about getting married? I chuckled awkwardly. We just registered recently. We met through a matchmaker. Such trivial matters. I didn't dare disturb you. Another stretch of silence passed before Edward uttered 3 indifferent words. I see. Amidst the clamorous background noise came the careless clicking sounds. The lighter cap was repeatedly flipped open, then slammed shut with rough impatience. I kept my eyes fixed on my toes, not daring to make a sound. This phone call was truly presumptuous. After all these years apart, I'm already married, and he has someone new by his side. If Isaac hadn't gone too far, I wouldn't have wanted to disturb his life again. Isaac is a city's notorious playboy. Just past 20 years old, indulging in a life of debauchery and lawlessness. We had met once at a dinner gathering with friends. He raised an eyebrow, his gaze lingering on my face. After the gathering, Isaac's assistant handed me a room key with a smile. I pushed it back with a backhanded motion, bluntly refusing. But Isaac seemed to interpret this gesture as playing hard to get. For 3 months, he would block the entrance of my workplace every day at closing time, holding a bouquet of flowers, making a grand spectacle. I had someone relay a message to him tactfully saying I was already married and asking him not to bother me. But he became even more aggressive, even going so far as to ask me to leave and become his secretary. Gossip is a fearful thing. If this continues, I won't even be able to keep my job. At this thought, I couldn't help but speak up. Isaac's family owns mines, and he has underworld connections. Only you can put him in his place. Have me put him in his place. Edward asked me casually, Olivia, where's your husband? Did he die? My mind went blank for a moment. I replied awkwardly, he's just an ordinary person like me, not particularly capable. A cold laugh came through the phone, dripping with mockery. No matter how much Isaac struts around, he's just a second-generation rich kid from a third-tier city. At this level, one couldn't even touch the fringes of Edward's circle. Edward was the true third-generation Beijing native with impeccable revolutionary pedigree. Neither power nor wealth was lacking in his life. Many so-called important figures appeared as insignificant as ants before him. I bit my lip, just about to speak. The woman's gentle voice reached his ears. First, Edward, who are you on the phone with? Edward lied, without batting, a business partner. The woman clearly didn't believe him, her tone carrying a hint of petulance. Let me see. Don't be difficult, he chided softly, with an indescribable note of fondness. I frantically hung up the phone, my hands and feet ice cold. Dominic is away on a business trip, and doesn't he know about Isaac? So when he called to ask if anything had been bothering me these past few days, I sniffled and forced a smile. Everything is fine, what could possibly be wrong? Dominic's voice was clear and cool, as calm and steady as ever. If anything comes up, be sure to tell me right away, I'll handle it. My heart ached as I covered my eyes in the restroom. Dominic was just an ordinary hard-working employee. What could he possibly do against the powerful elite? He would only get hurt. I told him to rest early. Unexpectedly, my voice choked up when the words came out. The man on the other end of the line paused, his breathing, his tone turning cold and heavy. Olivia, what happened? I hurriedly hung up the phone. Isaac colluded with my boss to set up a banquet with hidden daggers. I thought it was just about discussing an important collaboration, but when I arrived at the scene, I realized the client was Isaac. With colleagues by my side, I couldn't just turn and leave on a whim at such a moment. Perhaps he found it amusing to see me reluctantly take my seat. Isaac studied me brazenly, a faint look of smug confidence playing on his face. During the second half of the dinner, he kept pouring me drinks without showing any emotion. Just before the gathering ended, I seized the chance to slip out of the restaurant, only to have someone grab my wrist and pull me into their arms. Do you really think you can escape my grasp? A man's cynical voice sounded above my head. He stroked my face with a grin, his eyes lifting flirtatiously at the corners. I frowned, about to scold him to let me go. Suddenly, a powerful beam of light shot out, nearly blinding me. The sleek Bentley came to an arrogant halt, blocking the way. The rear window rolled down, revealing a face that was slightly aloof. Meeting Edward's gaze, my face turned pale. After that phone call, I had already given up hope of his assistance. How did he suddenly appear in City S? I took a deep breath and raised my arm, effortlessly breaking free from Isaac's grasp. He stood frozen in place, his tongue tied in knots. You uncle. Isaac apologized to me. He said reluctantly, Miss Olivia, it was this toad lusting after a swan's flesh. I'll never dare to pester you again. As he spoke, he cautiously glanced at Edward. The latter lifted his eyelids and silently returned the gaze. Isaac turned pale and wailed, Uncle, I truly didn't know she was your woman. I wouldn't have dared to lay a finger on her even with 10 extra lives. I cleared my throat and emphasized that was before we've already separated now. Edward glanced at me, but said nothing. After a long silence, he turned his head coldly and said, still not leaving. Isaac slunk away. The temperature in the car kept dropping. I couldn't help but shiver. Edward casually grabbed his coat and threw it over me. I worn a tank top today to stay cool. Edward didn't like me wearing clothes that exposed my arms. He had an obsessive possessiveness over my body. In my memory, his cool knuckles pressed against my skin inch by inch, his voice thin, as if squeezed through clenched teeth. Here, and here. Those slender fingers suddenly curled, and I let out a low whimper. He said leisurely, everything is mine, no one else is allowed to look, much less touch. Whoever touches, it must die. I coughed lightly, and said, then should I leave too? Edward's long lashes lowered as if he hadn't heard me speak. After a long pause, he looked at me calmly. Where do you live? I'll take you back. I waved my hand. No need, I'll just take the subway back. It's very convenient. Edward was silent for a moment before giving a faint, cold smile, afraid of me. I froze for a moment before he sneered, I'm not Isaac, I wouldn't stoop so low as to pursue a married woman. Indeed, Edward had always been particular. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been a virgin when we first got together. At nearly 30, how could I possibly compete with hordes of young girls? I wasn't even on par with that well-matched Eva by his side. He couldn't possibly still have any feelings for me. Even if he did, it would surely be the weariness that comes after growing tired of playing. There was a time when I naively believed Edward loved me. From the moment I ran away from home at 18 and he brought me back to that villa. He protected me from being discovered by my drug-addicted parents, sent me to prestigious schools abroad, provided me with a lavish monthly allowance, and molded me into the image of a wealthy heiress. Over the years, it must have cost at least a small fortune. Edward never mentioned a word of it in front of me. Given his sensitive position, traveling abroad wasn't easy for him, yet he always made time to visit me. The flight took dozens of hours, and though he was utterly exhausted, he still forced himself to stay alert to ask how I was doing and whether I had enough money to spend. I once asked him why he treated me so well. Edward's friends also had mistresses, but they would only throw some cash their way, never bothering to invest so much time and effort. Edward smiled and enunciated each word. Clearly, you're the pet I picked up, so of course I'll pamper you lavishly. Later, when I recalled those words, I suddenly understood. He had already given the answer to our relationship long ago. I was merely a pet, one he could keep by his side, discard, or even possess two of simultaneously. Edward clearly didn't want to lose me. He attended Eva's engagement ceremony in the morning and sat before me without even changing his clothes. Our relationship remains unchanged, you needn't worry. My voice trembled slightly. What do you mean by unchanged? Edward replied coldly and calmly, she wouldn't disturb us. If you don't want, he raised an eyebrow, slightly showing no trace of reluctance, you can also take $10 million and leave. I closed my eyes and said I needed to think about it. Truthfully, there wasn't much to consider. Everyone has their limits, and I could never be the other woman. I just needed a night to buffer the blow to make him believe my decision to leave wasn't made lightly. Some nosy friends who saw the engagement announcement called that very night asking how he'd handled disposing of me. Edward answered the call, right in front of me, his pale wrist indifferent, up to her. I don't care. What's there to be reluctant about? He lowered his gaze with a faint laugh, just a plaything. Edward drove me home. The pressure around him eased, no longer as sharp and cold as before. What made you think of getting married? Edward's gaze swept across my face. Who is it that said they never planned to marry in this lifetime? Just angry words spoken during a breakup. I smiled quietly. I never expected to meet someone I'd like so much back then, probably what they call fate's true match. Dominic, and I didn't actually meet through a matchmaking arrangement. At the time, I was transferred to work under Dominic for a few months. He was the most capable superior I'd ever met, socially adept, highly efficient, managing our makeshift team with perfect order. With effortless ease, he carried himself as if born to lead others, giving me the faint illusion that he and Edward were cut from the same cloth. I'm a sucker for good looks. Dominique's refined, understated features, when he fixed his gaze on me, felt like a gentle, warm breeze. At first glance, he reminded me of Edward. Edward, too, was widely acknowledged as a handsome man in our circle. His handsomeness carried an edge like the icy winter wind, laced with frost needles piercing straight to the bone. It was exactly my type of appearance, so I quietly adored him for many years. But who says you can only love one person in a lifetime? Dominic is unmarried and single from a moderately well-off family with no significant background. No background is good. He's within my reach. In my peripheral vision, Edward's arm resting on the steering wheel faintly showed traces of veins. He sneered, what's the use of a destined match, an ordinary man who can't protect you? Even someone like Isaac can harass you at will. Olivia, you must divorce him immediately, don't compound your mistakes. I was stunned. Divorce? Edward looked straight at me and repeated, divorce? He's just a worthless man who doesn't deserve you. Who is he calling worthless? I glared at him angrily. Edward lowered his gaze with a hint of arrogance after the divorce sigh. His words were interrupted by the vibration of his phone. It suddenly occurred to me that I hadn't returned Dominic's call yet. Just as my fingers touched the screen, someone abruptly grabbed my wrist. Edward's gaze fell on the caller ID display, his eyes suddenly trembling. Dominic, how do you have his number? I was puzzled. He's my husband, of course I have his number. As the words left my mouth, I belatedly turned to look at Edward, whose expression had turned extremely grim. How did he know Dominic? I hesitated for a second, then answered the call openly in front of Edward, speaking in a cheerful tone. Honey, what is up? I was just working overtime earlier and was in a bad mood, but I'm fine now, don't worry. Edward suddenly grabbed my forearm, causing the phone to clatter onto the steering wheel. I glared at him angrily, only to see him press his lips tightly together as he turned on the speakerphone. A few seconds later, Dominic's gentle voice came through the receiver. I thought as much. He said softly, Olivia, you have to believe me no matter what happens. I have the means to help you resolve it. I laughed, of course. I believe you. Edward's phone began to vibrate. After I hung up, he answered the phone, expressionlessly speak. A muffled grumbling voice faintly came through the receiver, and my heart tightened. It was Isaac's voice. Uncle, you're too cruel. Just for a woman you do this to me. Edward frowned. What did I do to you? Explain yourself clearly. Isaac complained aggrievedly. Just got the notice the mining permits for several mines my family contracted suddenly can't be issued. Even our long-term clients are abruptly terminating their contracts. Edward suddenly let out a mocking laugh. Look around the entire city. Who else but you has that much power? Surely it can't be that person from the Liu family. Why would they even be in city? Edward said coldly, someone higher up is dealing with you. Take it. Isaac's voice sounded like he was about to cry. Please, uncle, you're the only one who can save my family now. Serves you right for messing with someone else's wife when you've got no skills of your own. After hanging up the phone, Edward remained silent. His handsome face wore a strange expression, half smiling, half angry, with a touch of suppressed rage. I gave him a strange look. Do you know Dominic? He scoffed. Which one are you talking about? Your useless husband, or the heir to the Liu group with a net worth of hundreds of billions? The heir to the Dominic group worth hundreds of billions. How did he make that connection? I was startled and waved my hands repeatedly. You misunderstood. Forget it. Pretend I never asked. Edward chuckled softly. When he lifted his gaze to look at me again, there was a hint of pity in his eyes. Olivia, you've been deceived. I thought Edward must have gone mad. He said Dominic is the heir to the Dominic group worth hundreds of billions. Take a look. Is this the husband you've been talking about? Edward showed me a photo. It turned out to be a selfie of him and Dominic. The two men sat on the submarine, bare-chested, flanked by 4 or 5 blonde women, all with exceptional figures. We were classmates at Harvard and got along quite well. Edward said calmly, this photo was taken on a private island in Hawaii. Both the island and the yacht were gifts from the Liu family patriarch for his 18th birthday. We were well matched in status and both loved to have fun. We spent a lot of time together, and I have many similar photos like this one. Only 18 years old, I lower my head staring at that face for a long time. The overly delicate face was framed by slightly damp bangs exuding a touch of dashing charm. The man curled his lips, playfully pinching the blonde woman's chin. His handsome features still carried a hint of youthful innocence, lacking the composed and seasoned demeanor that years of experience would later bestow. It was Dominic, the reckless Dominic of his youthful days. He had always been calm and composed, indifferent to the world, casting only casual glances at beautiful girls. I had never seen him like this before. This world felt so unreal it made one dizzy. Edward slightly furrowed his brows and reached for my wrist, but I reflexively avoided his touch. Those pitch-black pupils turned cold again. After we graduated from Harvard, he returned to manage his family business, while I handled the power transition. Here we were both busy in the north and south respectively, and never found another chance to meet. With a faint smile he added, but I did mention him to you before. You should have some impression. I looked at him in bewilderment. Yes, he mentioned it. I remember now. On some debauched late night. My entire body ached as I sobbed, quietly cursing him for being a scoundrel. Edward, thoroughly satisfied, played with my hair and suddenly chuckled softly. For some reason, I have a friend surnamed Liu, a descendant of nobility. If he ever met you, he might be even more of a scoundrel than I am. I shoved him lightly. Don't redirect your resentment. He wouldn't be as excessive as you. Edward said coolly. You're too naive. He has the same as me, just better at pretending. My head was splitting with pain, my mind replaying every moment I shared with Dominic. Dating, meeting the parents, getting engaged, registering the marriage. Every step went so smoothly. Dominic's parents were both teachers, kind and gentle, treating each other with respect. Even after learning about my family situation, they didn't show any dissatisfaction. After our marriage, they didn't even appear again to avoid interfering too much in our lives. I thought it was a stroke of luck from heaven letting me marry into a good family and live a simple, happy life. But Edward shattered all that. He told me Dominic's parents had died when he was 10. Dominic had been raised personally by that powerful old man from the Liu family. The so-called parents-in-law I thought were real turned out to be just actors he hired. As for his job, Edward said indifferently, the Liu family values privacy and keeps their identities hidden. Very few know about them. Even your company's top executives probably have no idea they recruited such an unattainable figure, do they? He glanced down at me mockingly. What are you thinking? You don't actually believe Dominic married you in secret because he loves you, do you? He's just toying with you. Old Master Liu, doesn't he know about your existence? Does he? Over there, they're still busy arranging a proper marriage for him. Edward smiled slightly. They're all from prestigious families, well-bred ladies. What will you do then? Dominic came home. As I entered, I caught a faint whiff of cooking aromas. Dominic was wearing an apron, his head bowed, as he focused intently on stir-frying. When we first moved in together, neither of us knew how to cook. Especially me. Whenever I tried stir-frying, hot oil would splatter onto my hands, leaving shocking blisters. Dominic applied medicine to my hands and sighed helplessly. From now on, I'll do the cooking at home. Though we could have just eaten out and come back. But he said that only by cooking for oneself can one truly feel the essence of daily life. I set down my bag and silently embraced him from behind. He gently squeezed my hand. I could tell something was off in your voice, so I booked the earliest flight back. The earliest flight? I just checked online. The next available flight, ISNT, until tomorrow at 3 p.m. How did he come back? By private jet. I couldn't help but laugh. The husband I thought was just an ordinary office worker turned out to be a hidden big shot all along. But what did he go through all that trouble to marry me for? I put down my chopsticks intending to ask him directly. But then I saw a text message Edward had sent at some unknown time. Olivia, as long as you divorce Dominic now, I still want you. Those brief words made his confident, determined face appear vividly before my eyes. I remained silent for a long time, then looked up and met Dominic's gaze. He gazed at me quietly, his pupils as warm as jade. After a few seconds of eye contact, I averted my gaze. Lowering my head, I texted Edward, the first one to divorce him. Dominic stayed with me at home for a long time. I deliberately asked about how his parents were doing, and he replied without batting an eye, they retired to the countryside to farm for fun, no need to worry. Let us bring them over to stay for a few days, they're getting older, and should enjoy some comfort. Dominic chuckled, looking down at my face with a teasing tone. How did I get so lucky to marry such a filial wife? He slightly raised the corner of his eye and pulled me into his arms. No rush to show filial piety to my parents. Actually, I still have a grandfather. I'll take you to visit him when we have time. His last few words were spoken very softly. I didn't hear them, just nuzzled against his chest with a touch of melancholy. Dominic was gentle, restrained, and considerate, in every way an excessively excellent husband. If only it could always be like this. I can pretend to know nothing. A few months later, Dominic packed his bags for another business trip. Asked him where he was going abroad to evaluate a project for our boss. I searched for news about the Dominic group. The Liu family was in the final contract signing stage of a new collaboration with a foreign company. The top executives from both companies must be present. He wasn't inspecting the program on behalf of leadership, he was the leadership himself. When I saw Edward downstairs in my apartment complex again, I froze for a moment. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I had already made my stance clear to him that day. I wouldn't divorce Dominic. Shouldn't he have left city long ago. Edward dragged me into the car with a grim expression, locking the doors. No divorce? Are you waiting for Dominic's family patriarch to finish you off? He gritted his teeth and said, Olivia, the Dominic family will never acknowledge you. The lady of the Dominic house could never be someone of your background. Edward insisted on showing me Dominic's true nature, regardless of my consent, and took me across the border. He mentioned that after concluding the project discussions, Dominic would attend a ball hosted by their business partners. The air was thick with subtle fragrances, and the rustling of fine garments filled the room. I stood in the shadows watching Dominic bend down, smiling as he kissed the hand of the raven-haired beauty. This is the heiress of our partner company, worth over 10 billion. Marrying her would be a powerful alliance, bringing immense benefits to the Liu family. Edward explained to me indifferently, they were betrothed since childhood. If not for Dominic's reluctance, they would have married long ago. Technically, you're the one who came later. He spoke unhurriedly, each word cutting into my heart like a knife. Olivia, Edward turned me around and bent down to wipe away my tears. The happiness you had with him was all fake. It won't end well for you too. I can forgive you for falling for someone else. Come back to me. What do you say? Come back to you, as the other woman. Listen carefully, Edward the first took a deep breath. Even if I divorce Dominic, I want to get back together with you. I don't like you anymore. No matter how bad things are for me now, at least I have my dignity intact. Both legally and morally, I can stand with a clear conscience. Edward let out a series of cold laughs. Very well. Just as I was about to relax, he suddenly closed the distance between us. He lowered his head and kissed me with practiced force, his lips pressing hard against mine. Was he out of his mind? I bit down on his tongue with all my strength, then shoved him away viciously before slapping him across the face in fury. My fingers trembled slightly, and only then did I realize what I had done. Edward stared at me darkly, his eyes suddenly reddening. He closed his eyes briefly, his voice hoarse. You've hit me now. Stop making a scene, and come back. The words had barely left his lips when a faint gasp came from behind. Edward, what are you doing here? Eva, dressed in an extravagant designer gown, looked at me with a dark expression. Olivia. The two words seemed to be forced through clenched teeth. Those nearby sensed the tension and gradually began to gather around. Dominic was among them. When he recognized my face, his smiling expression abruptly darkened, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. He and the dark-haired girl beside him were looking over curiously. My husband standing with another woman, they truly made a perfect pair. My heart ached with reddened eyes. I looked away. He would never stand up for me, much less acknowledge my identity. Compared to the granddaughter-in-law his grandfather favors, I'm actually the one he can't bring into the light. Eva, as expected, didn't disappoint those watching for drama. Without listening to explanations, she demanded with reddened eyes, you've already left, so why come back to steal my man? Edward chided lightly, we've already broken up. Stop making unreasonable scenes. You broke up? I was somewhat shocked since I distinctly heard their flirtatious banter over the phone just recently. Eva burst into loud sobs. You're dumping me because of her, aren't you, Edward, you heartless bastard? Her wine glass came flying viciously toward me. The surrounding crowd immediately erupted in murmurs, their disdainful gazes piercing through me like arrows, pinning me frozen to the spot. The wine glass was about to hit my eye. I stood there dumbly, unable to react. Someone suddenly grabbed my wrist. Dominic swiftly raised his hand, and the glass struck his knuckles with a sharp clink. He frowned slightly, studied me, then looked coldly at them. You're saying she is having an affair with Edward? Eva nodded without hesitation. They've been carrying on together thick as thieves. I just saw them kissing with my own eyes. Eva, Dominic abruptly cut her off, enunciating each word clearly. Are you saying my wife has an improper relationship with your ex-boyfriend? Is that it? The room instantly fell deathly silent. Eva's eyes widened as if she had lost the ability to speak. He sneered slander, and spreading rumors come with a price. Eva, you'd better think carefully before you speak. Perhaps the scene was too ugly, or perhaps the news of Dominic's marriage was too significant. The crowd was silently ushered to another venue. Even Eva was coaxed into leaving. Just half an hour later, only the three of us remained in the room. Edward chuckled softly. Who would have thought our reunion after all these years would be under such circumstances? He raised an eyebrow. You've taken over a woman I've slept with. What a fateful connection. Dominic calmly cursed. Who the hell has fate with you flirting with a married man? You're really doing our alma mater proud. You stole what was mine first. Edward turned to me, his eyes darkening. I was with her first 7 years between us. Dominic, can you just let go of those 7 years? Dominic gave him a long look, then silently pulled me away. The fingers gripping my wrist were exerting tremendous force, filled with rage, almost crushing my bones. Shedding his gentle facade, he cornered me in a deserted spot, the air around him terrifyingly oppressive. So the ex-boyfriend you've been talking about for 7 years is Edward. I lowered my head in shame, tears trembling down my cheeks and falling onto his hand as if leaving dents. He had deceived me, and I had deceived him. We all have secrets in our past. Let us get divorced. What did you say? I closed my eyes briefly, struggling to suppress the tremor in my voice. Let us get divorced, Dominic, whatever your reason was for marrying me. Silence fell between us. Dominic stared at me motionlessly, turbulent emotions swirling in his eyes. After a long pause, he chuckled lightly. Do you really think I'd marry you? You should understand what marriage means to someone like me. He spoke word by word, cruel and indifferent. If I wanted to sleep with you, or just have some casual fun, I have 100 ways to get you. Why would I risk losing half my fortune by marrying you? He stubbornly pressed me, as if determined to hear the answer from my lips. Say it. Why exactly? I choked back a sob, shaking my head through tears. Even if you love me now, so what? A lifetime is long. A marriage built on unequal social status creates a chasm that even love cannot bridge. The gap between us is too wide. I don't want this kind of marriage. I'm not worthy of you, and I don't want you to settle. Dominic suddenly let go of me. He lowered his gaze slightly and smiled self-deprecatingly. You see, this is why I didn't want to tell you the truth. Dominic completely dropped the act. He gave me a supplementary credit card with no spending limit and took me to his overseas property. It was less of a house and more of an estate spanning thousands of square meters. You're not allowed to return to the country on your own. There are plenty of shopping malls here. Go shop to pass the time. Once I finish this project, I'll take you back to meet the old man. I was puzzled. Why would I need to meet your grandfather? Shouldn't we get divorced before the old man even knows of my existence? What do you mean by going to see Grandpa? Dominic took a deep breath, as if restraining his anger, his expression tinged with grievance. Olivia, you're his granddaughter-in-law. If you don't go, who do you expect to accompany me to see him? The face of that raven-haired beauty flashed before my eyes. I pursed my lips and sneered. That girl from the cocktail party would do nicely. I heard your grandfather is quite fond of her. So you want her to be my step-grandma? Dominic took a sip of water and gave me a cold glance. You're just trying to piss me off on purpose. I almost laughed but held it in. That bit of bad mood suddenly vanished into thin air. Dominic was just like that, emotionally stable most of the time with a touch of carefree attitude now, and then always ready to catch all my moods. It was as if he would never show me his sharp edges. Why do you keep staring at me? Dominic casually tossed the bottle to the ground and raised an eyebrow, slightly afraid. You want to get to see this face after the divorce, so you're trying to memorize it now. I was speechless for a moment and turned to leave for the guest room, only to be pulled back onto the bed by him from behind. The bedding in this luxury hotel was soft and warm, the sensation spreading all the way to my waist. He slightly hunched his back, encircling me in a protective embrace, his hand resting on the pulse at my neck. Darling, I'm sleepy. Stay with me for a while. Dominic's voice sounded heavy, his half-lowered eyelashes trembling slightly, looking utterly exhausted. My heart softened. I stopped being angry with him and reached out to stroke his soft forehead. Hair, go to sleep. Dominic slept little and found it hard to fall asleep. But during our ambiguous period, during a business trip, Dominic leaned against my shoulder and slept soundly for a full 3 hours. When he woke up still half asleep, he gazed at me absently. I still remember how adorable he looked at that moment. All his usual sharpness was gone. He was so docile, just like a child. So much, so that I couldn't resist pinching his cheek at the time. The next second, he leaned down and kissed me. Dominic rarely gets a good night's sleep. So when Edward's message came through, I couldn't bear to wake him, so I carefully extricated myself from his embrace. Edward's message was brief, just a few words. Don't you want your passport? Damn it, after we left the country, he'd been holding onto my passport the whole time. Too many things happened afterward, and I completely forgot about this matter. Have someone deliver it, or give me a location, I'll send a courier to pick it up. Edward said indifferently, come get it yourself. I arranged to meet him by the fountain in the hotel garden. When I went down, he was already there, standing with his head bowed, as if he'd been waiting for who knows how long. He watched quietly as I approached, a trace of weariness between his brows. Are you really sure about this? I wasn't paying attention to what he said, fumbling to put my passport away. It's getting late, I should head back now. Edward stared at me in silence, then suddenly grabbed my wrist and pulled me close. Our bodies pressed together for just a moment before I pushed him away, suppressing my anger. Let us not meet alone again from now on. Edward, there's no way I'm coming back to you, and I don't have the slightest bit of affection for you. You'd better take care of yourself. With that, I quickly walked away. The figure behind me remained silently standing like a frozen statue. I cautiously pushed open the suite door. There's less than 20 minutes left. Dominic, shouldn't he wake up right? The The door opened without a sound. The living room lights had been turned off at some point. Dominic's chilly voice rang out. "Where have you been?" I answered guiltily. I went for a walk in the garden downstairs." Dominic didn't speak. With an expressionless face, he rose step by step, backing me against the door, turbulent emotions swirling in his eyes. "Were you taking a walk with him? Not just walking, but talking, so close together." So he had seen after all. I hesitated for a moment before confessing, "Honestly, my passport is with Edward." Suddenly, he bit down fiercely on the tip of my tongue. Dominic is a gentle man. Whether in moments like these or in daily life, he is as tender as water. Even when assertive, he would never hurt me. Often when he sees I'm tired, he suppresses his desires and stops. And now it was as if he had completely shed all pretense. He seized the most vulnerable part of me over and over, filling me to the brim. He held me tightly in his arms in a grip meant to carve itself into flesh and bone. "Olivia, you are not to see him again." His voice was trembling, and the hand gripping my shoulder was trembling too. "I won't allow it. We ended things long ago." I desperately tried to soothe him, kissing his face frantically. "There is nothing between us, really. I stopped liking him ages ago." He buried his face in my hair and gradually calmed down. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault." It was unclear how much time had passed before he spoke with some difficulty. "I only dared to marry you after securing majority control of the company as shares. I originally wanted to wait longer to confess everything after completely seizing power. By then the old man wouldn't dare use the company to threaten me. Olivia, now that we're married, there are no barriers between us. I didn't sign any prenuptial agreement. My wealth is jointly yours, and you're protected by law." He took a deep breath, as if struggling to contain his emotions. "You can't use this as an excuse to divorce me." "I know I want to get a divorce. All those things I said before were just angry words." I kept repeating my promises until I finally had to change the subject. "Why did you come to S-City?" Dominic closed his eyes for a moment and said, "I had a fight with my old man. He tried to force me into an arranged marriage, so I left in anger, wanting to prove I could make it without the Dominic family." I laughed through my tears. "And then what?" Then I met you." Dominic lowered his head to kiss my eyelids. This kiss was gentle, carrying the soothing scent of tranquility after a mountain rain. I straightened up. "So when did you fall for me?" "I don't know," I said, startled. Dominic gazed at me calmly, feelings accumulate bit by bit. "In every moment before I realized it, I couldn't live without you anymore." He whispered, "When we were in love, I wanted to give you money, wanted to give you the best things in the world, but I was also timid, not knowing what you truly wanted, until one day, I heard you say you longed to wear a wedding dress. Olivia, I love you. For people like us, marriage is the most precious thing I can give you." I saw Edward again on the day of Old Man Lou's 80th birthday. As the lady of the Dominic household. When Dominic brought me before Old Man Lou, the old man was so furious he chased after his unfilial descendant with his cane. He glared at me angrily. "You must give me 3 chubby grandsons within 2 years, or get out of this house." Dominic readily agreed, then whispered in my ear, "Don't mind him. Just say I'm no good when the time comes." I secretly gave him a nudge. Edward looked noticeably thinner. His already sharp jawline now looked even more angular, making him appear even more unapproachable. I was keeping Dominic company on the first floor with the guests. His gaze silently reached out to me across the sea of men and women. He didn't bring a date. Eva had already eloped with another young talent. She was smart enough not to offend the Dominic family and came to apologize to me specifically. Since let bygones be bygones. She even sent me a wedding invitation. She looked beautiful in her wedding dress, and her eyes shone brighter when she smiled than when she cried. I sincerely wish her happiness and a harmonious union lasting 100 years. Eva laughed. "Thank you, I've already let go." The lighter S-cap was repeatedly flicked open, then slammed shut with rough impatience. She sighed. "Truth be told, I still feel a bit unwilling in the end. I never married the man I loved for so many years, but I was the one who rejected him. You're right, he is no longer worthy of me. Actually, I kind of pity him." Eva gave me an inscrutable glance. "Misery loves company in the end. He didn't get the person he loved either. We're equally pathetic." I corrected her. "He didn't like me that much to begin with. How much affection can one truly give to a pet?" Eva shook her head. "Emotions are so complex. Even he couldn't tell whether what he felt for you was mere possessiveness or love. The night you left, he got drunk at my place, cried himself hoarse, and woke up pretending nothing had happened. Does he love you? Who can say for certain about matters of the heart? Some people are geniuses in many fields, yet utter fools when it comes to love." Just then Dominic suddenly appeared, wrapping an arm around me with a laugh. "Well then, I must be an absolute all-around flawless genius." Eva glared at him. She looked at us, pursing her lips in slight dissatisfaction. "Tell me, where am I worse than you? Why would he fall for you? And not me? You don't have any merits besides being pretty, yet you managed to attract 2 exceptional men." I answered honestly, "I don't know either." "What do you mean you don't know?" Dominic said lightly. "Haven't you heard the saying, love is destined by heaven? My beloved and I are a match made in heaven." I snapped back to reality. Dominic was chatting and laughing with guests, his hand resting openly on my waist the entire time. The wine glass swayed, reflecting the reddened eyes of a man not far away. He stood there desolately, like an abandoned puppy. Who can say for sure about matters of the heart? I averted my gaze and rested my head on Dominic's shoulder.